rocking, ain't got no say. Spinnaker glows beneath the sun-kissed skies. The waves crash and laugh, dreams begin to rise. Taking on the water, dancing with the sun. With the Spinnaker in hand, the adventure just begun. Oceans built upon us, wings unseen we glide. Navigate the moments, feel the shifting tide. Silver compass on my wrist leads me to the blue. Sunset whispers secrets, golden hues in view. Sailors of the past, they paved the aqua way. Spinnaker watches their stories every day. Taking on the water, dancing with the sun. With the Spinnaker in hand, the adventure's just begun. Oceans built upon us, wings unseen we glide. Navigate the moments, feel the shifting tide. Silver compass on my wrist leads me to the blue. Sunset whispers secrets, golden hues in view. Ocean's breath upon us, wings unseen we glide.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me as always. My name is Jim, and I'm here today to discuss with you the Spinnaker Piccard. Now, as I discussed in my Fleas GMT automatic review, which was this watch right here, the very first Spinnaker that I ever owned, one of my favorite things about this brand is their ability to blend retro vintage looks with modern aesthetics to create what I feel is more of a timeless design. The Piccard follows in that spirit, particularly in this dark cerulean colorway. Now, the Piccard in dark cerulean is going to be $550 US, according to their website, and they do often do different sales. 20% off, 30% off, 40% off, depending on the time of the year. So always check back to find the best prices on Spinnaker's website. Now, I will tell you this watch is polarizing. It's already at the threshold for many size wrists at its 45 millimeter case diameter. Now, I'm a man, and as a man, I have man-sized wrists. So 45 millimeters isn't some insane, tragic, overgrown size that I can't cope with. My preferred size range is 42 millimeters to 44 millimeters, but I will go a little beyond that for certain watches. At 45 millimeters, I'm totally fine. But the size story isn't told simply by the diameter here. Like an observation porthole on a submarine, you have a crazily highly domed sapphire crystal up top that is, I mean, really the only word you can use for this is insane. Highly domed almost doesn't even quite describe it. It's like a cathedral ceiling of sapphire. Now, this might seem cartoonish to you now, but in a few minutes, I'm going to give you a bit of history, and I think that you'll actually come to appreciate this overall design. Now, it's tempting to get into the history behind this design right now, but I want to dive straight into the watch, honestly, especially for those that are just here to talk about the watch, here to learn about the watch, and history isn't all that important to them. I want to give you the information that you came here looking for. So we'll start with the specs. I'm going to kind of just set this up right over here. Your case diameter, as I mentioned before, is 45 millimeters, and the thickness is 21 millimeters. That does stand up very, very tall off of the wrist. Every component is 316L stainless steel. Your lug to lug distance, so edge of wrist to edge of wrist, 52 millimeters, and it is very steeply curved with female end links on the solid end link bracelet, so it does begin to drop immediately down your wrist. So it should be easy for most men to be able to wear. Your markers are applied indices with Swiss Superluminova. All the hands are filled with Swiss Superluminova, and you do have the inverted triangle here in the bezel that's also Swiss Superluminova. The crystal, as mentioned, is sapphire. Your crown, of course, is going to be a screw-down crown. Your bracelet is 22 millimeters at the lugs and tapers to 20 millimeters at the clasp. Water resistance is 550 meters. The weight, 8.8 ounces. This is a half a pound. That is crazy, and that probably is going to preclude this from being an everyday wearable watch for many people. Your warranty on this is going to be a 2-year international warranty. Now, take away the novelty of this design, and the watch feels like a multi-$1,000 watch. The machining all the way around on this is absolutely top tier. The finishing work on this is top tier. The engineering of putting an automatic helium escape valve in this case is top tier. Normally in this price range, if for any reason they even put the expense of a helium escape valve in their dive watch, it would normally be a manual crown that you would have to screw in and screw out. This is an automatic plunger style. And yeah, those are quite a bit more expensive to wear. There is your 550 meters of water resistance listed right there. I love how solid this watch feels. Now, it's not just solid feeling because it's massive and heavy, but it's solid feeling because it's built like a bank vault and then finished like a jewelry brand watch. It's incredible how fine the brushing has been done all along the case, all along the bracelet. It's beautiful and refined, which is not what I expected. The whole time I was waiting for this to arrive, I was like, yeah, this is going to be a fun watch, a gimmicky watch. I'll wear it, once or twice a month. It's going to be too big and bulbous and heavy to be comfortable. And I don't think at this price it's going to be finished as well as the only other, the two Spinnakers that I already have, the Dumas and the Fleas GMT. I didn't think that it was going to be up to those levels. And I couldn't have been more wrong. I was so wonderfully surprised when this arrived, and I opened the box and I felt it and went, wow, they really did a great job. Even the depth of the coin edge on the bezel is done so precisely. Now, let's talk, just for a few minutes, a little bit of history. Now, Spinnaker likes to pay homage to milestones in diving or to commemorate people who have made history in diving and aquatics. The Piccard is another example of that. Jacques Piccard was a Swiss oceanographer and engineer who developed submarines for studying ocean currents. In the Challenger Deep, he and Lieutenant Don Walsh of the United States Navy were the first people to explore the deepest known parts of the world's ocean and the deepest known location on the surface of the Earth's crust, the Mariana Trench. And that was in his Mesoscaphe Trieste that was designed and piloted by Piccard, whom this watch was named after. Now, Rolex was even involved as they strapped their deep sea special to the hull and celebrated the deep dive in their first oyster case as it came back up unscathed from conditions as extreme as 17,000 pounds per square inch at that 10,916 meters of depth. It had this insane acrylic bubble crystal that was twice as thick as the entire case of their watch. But it had to be to withstand the intense pressures that it was going to be subjected to. Now, the Piccard by Spinnaker pays homage not only to the man who helmed the journey, but also to the watch that tagged along. This is not a replica of that Rolex in any way. All they did to pay homage to that Rolex was to create a very oversized domed crystal. That was it. Nothing else about this watch looks like the Rolex, so it's not like somebody could say, oh, that's just a knockoff of that Rolex that made that famous dive. No, it's made to commemorate and pay homage, but only a very slight design aspect. Now, in the summer of 1969, a six-man crew undertook a 30-day mission of drifting 1,500 miles from Florida all the way up to Maine to sample, measure, and explore various aspects of the huge underwater Atlantic Ocean current known as the Gulf Stream at depths varying between 500 and 1,800 feet. The 50-foot, 130-ton battery-powered Mesoscaphe was the brainchild of Jacques Piccard and built between 1966 and 1968 by Grumman Aerospace Corporation with funding and instrument contributions from the United States Navy. Now, if we take a look, I'm going to try to zoom in here at the case back here. Right back there, you see where it says PX-15. PX-15 was a designation given to that particular submersible that was used in order to go on that mission. Very, very cool. Spinnaker is really awesome about being very detail-oriented when they're paying homage to any of these diving or aquatic legends. It's so cool. It's so awesome. What I would love to see at some point is for them to more closely replicate maybe some of the vessels that have undertaken some of these journeys. And while I think it's important that they're paying homage to the individual people, I think it would be very cool to pay homage directly to the machinery that's being used, because I mean, we're holding a mechanical object here, and I think it would be a really cool idea if they did something like that. Now, that's it for the Wikipedia history lesson there. Let's get back to the watch. The case is beefy, and it seems like it's got very thick case walls. It just feels like it, just judging by the incredible mass of this watch. Let's take a good look at it on the wrist. Let's take a good look at it here on the wrist. Now, one of the reasons that this is not going to be a great everyday wearable watch, I'm going to move this past midnight here because it's in between the dates. I apologize. Anyway, one of the reasons it's not going to be good for every single day wear is because it's not always really easy to see into that dial because of how highly domed this sapphire crystal is. It's going to give a lot of reflections. It's going to give a lot of that magnification. And it's a little bit of a pain. Now, if you go outdoors where you've got bright light coming from every direction, it's a little bit easier to see the dial. It's actually quite easy to see the dial. The crown, by the way, on here is a massive 9.4 millimeter crown. It's huge, it's wonderfully detailed, and it's got really, really nice knurling. Now, one of the things I like about this is once you've got it screwed into the crown tube extension, the threading is super fine and it just glides. It feels fantastic. Again, going back to that overall build quality, it really is pretty impressive for the price. The massive bracelet helps the watch stay balanced on the wrist because, yeah, you've got a very heavy case head here, but that bracelet is thick and heavy as well. Now, I haven't measured the thickness of the individual links, but if I had to guess, I'd say those are about 5 millimeters in thickness. They are thick and heavy, and they're all very, very solid. You have a diver's flip lock safety clasp here with dual pushers for security, and it's going to be the supported style clasp as well, not a stamped steel clasp. So they really spared no expense on this watch. You've got sapphire, you've got high grade 316L steel, you've got a high grade diver's flip lock safety clasp with, by the way, the diver's extension built in. And you've got Swiss Super Luminova. Now, that's kind of a big deal, too. And I think that's something else that most people wouldn't expect for this price range from a micro brand. Maybe using an underdeveloped luminescence or using something like Japanese Nemoto, which is going to cost you a lot less money and still be good. I don't think anybody's really ever complained about Nemoto. They might go, well, gee, I wish this Lume was a little bit longer lasting, like, Super Luminova is, but overall, it's a pretty well-respected Lume, and in this $500, $550 price range, that's certainly to be expected. But they did a great job of giving you as much as they could, and by the way, this bezel, the outer ring is 316L steel. The blue that you see in here, the cerulean blue, is done in ceramic, and it feels, oh, listen to this. Oop, I missed it. This is a very precise bezel. It's 120 clicks. And what it does is, when you're bringing it to its notch, it will spring back to be very, very precise and land in a notch. And there is no back plate. They did a really good job on the way that's constructed. It feels really, really good. It's got solid clicks, but smooth, and it's easy to rotate. It's not notchy, but it's not vague either. You hear each of those clicks. You feel each of those clicks, but it's not notchy. Now, we all know the reliability of the SII NH35 movements, so I don't really need to dive too deep into that, really. But my example here has been running about -3 seconds per day on the wrist, and 5 seconds over per day, so plus 5 seconds per day on a watch winder. And to me, that's perfectly acceptable for even 3 times this price. So even if this is a $1,500 watch, I think that would be an acceptable variance in the accuracy. I think it's important that I break out a flashlight and we test out the Lume and see how well we can do. So I'm going to start off here, and I'm going to try to make everything as dark as possible in my studio so that you can see how long-lasting this Lume really is. Okay, let's see how well she performs. Well, I think that tells us just about everything we need to know. Thank you guys for joining me as always, and I'll see you on the next video.